I think we're live. Shut some blinds. Hang on a sec. Come on in, everybody. I see some people. Maybe. Anybody out there? Is there anybody out there? All right. Tom, it is meetup time. Hi, Jordan. Wait for people to join. Hello from Berlin. Hey, look at all these great people. I haven't met many of you. I'm excited. This will be fun. We're gonna have a good time. Give it a few minutes while people are coming in. Hello from Calgary. All right, we'll get a few people up here. Tom, I saw you. I got you invited to the stage. Not sure if we're going to see Rob. How's my audio, everyone? Is it coming through okay? I'm playing with new settings. Is my volume? Oh, very good.
Sounds good. Sounds good to me.
But is it silky smooth?
Yes. That sounds good.
All right.
I got no complaints.
All right. Well, it's getting better. Better than. So apparently Southern California doesn't have power today, Tom. We might not have Rob.
And Peter's on an airplane or something, right?
I think so. I think our team just got cut in half here. We'll give everyone a few more minutes to get settled. And we've got I'm excited. I already got to see the preview of what Chris Burns is going to show off. So that's going to be really fun. I'll do a little demo before that leading up to it. And we're going to have a good time. As people come in, if you haven't been to a RedwoodJS meetup before, we'll walk through the schedule. There's a lot of opportunity to participate by chat, but we will have some time at the end of this for open discussion and Q&A. And there's also a questions tab that you'll see next to the chat, which is a great place to ask questions, and we can come back to them when we have time. But there's a lot of opportunities to join, and I think we'll even have some time if people do want to come up on this stage thing. And you could do audio, optional, do video. We could have a conversation that way too. So for those who are brave, there'll be time, and we'd love to get to know you. So thanks everyone for coming today. Rob made it. Hey, Rob, do you want to, I don't know if you have internet. Do you want to come up on stage with us or just join from the chat today? Video is good. Does that mean, I'll tell you what.
Get him up here.
I'm going to invite you to the stage and then join it. All right. All right.
Hello, Samson.
Samson, where are you from?
What the?
Please.
Rob, what are you doing? And also, why is that text backwards?
I don't know. It picked Black Magic, but it's not showing my Black Magic. It's showing the minicam for some reason. Let me do this. If I do.
What's a minicam?
I don't know. I've never minicam myself.
Like a generic OSB. Okay, so that was that. And
Rob, how are you interneting right now?
Everything's back.
If they took away your power, you have power?
Yep, it just came back up. They said they originally said they weren't going to do it until Sunday, but I guess the winds died down enough that it was okay to do.
Well,
Sunday, man.
They knew
everything in your fridge would go bad. They leave the power off for that long. That's
I got the generator, yo.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, the last time they did this, we went to Costco and got a generator, so it's been sitting there ready to go, and it worked perfectly.
Yeah, nice.
My prepping is paid off. This refuses to. It's weird. It shows
Kenya. Nice.
It shows my Black Magic, but it won't. It won't let me use it. It's weird.
Samson, thanks for joining us. Well, let's get this party started. So up here with me. My name is David Price, and Rob and Tom are up here as well. But we are members of the leadership core team for RedwoodJS. And today we're going to be going through several things. Tom has a few things by way of state of the Redwood verse to update us on. We're going to do, I will do a demo walking through a few things that are new with RedwoodJS and also highlighting the version 1, the Redwood version 1 end-to-end developer experience. And that's going to lead into a demo I'm really excited about by Chris Burns. He has a new production app that's live. He's starting a new thing called Everfund, and he's going to walk us through Everfund and talk about his experience with RedwoodJS, as well as show us what Everfund does. And we'll go about an hour and a half, hour and 15 minutes. And that should leave us, we should have some time at the end, even up to 20 minutes for some open discussion and Q&A. So be sure to use the chat. There's a questions tab that works out really well when demos are going. We'll be monitoring those to answer questions. And at the end, we'll even have some time if people want to. You can join by chat, but also you could even join us up on stage. Audio is great, but audio and video, if you want to have conversation, we love to get to meet everyone. So that's how we do things. Any questions before we dive in? Rob, how'd we do?
Camera's back.
Good. All right. And I hear your cat, so that's good. Cat's good, alive.
Yeah. Cat's whining.
All right, introduce
As usual.
cat later. All right, Tom, you want to kick us off?
Sure. So let's see what's new with Redwood. You're going to hear a lot of things today about it. I'll say that what's today, December 3rd. So I've been saying for a long time that I was hoping that we'd get a Redwood 1.0 out before the end of the year, and that's probably not going to happen. So I hate to crush everyone's dreams. However, I think we can definitely get something out that is 1.0 worthy in first quarter next year. We're still thinking about from a pre-rendering kind of SSR, like those types of behaviors. We've been talking about those for a very long time. We haven't made a lot of progress on them, I think, because we're trying to get some of the fundamentals really nailed down as far as how the framework works, and then be able to layer these strategies on top that really are caching strategies and strategies that, sorry, my child just slammed up against the door. Okay. These are caching strategies and approaches to using Redwood at scale. And so that's kind of how we've started thinking about that. And what we're realizing is that there's a lot of different strategies to use in different circumstances, and it's going to take some careful analysis and planning to do them right. But if we do them right, then we could create an experience for Redwood users that makes it so that you can figure out what caching strategy to apply to your specific application and the use case that you have in a much easier way than going to these low level sort of building blocks and saying, I want to use SWR for this thing, and I want to put this caching proxy in front for this thing. And it gets very complicated very quickly. But if you can say, hey, I want this page to be static, or I want this page to be a collection of static things that can be iterated over a build time, and you identify the specific use case for each page of your system, then you can think much higher level and specify things that way. And in order to do this, it's going to take some time. And do we need 1.0 to wait for that? I'm not sure. I think maybe we should, because there's a couple of things that people constantly ask about, and that's SSR and related types of technologies, server-side rendering, and caching strategies, and TypeScript. And so we may very well want to get both of those in there so that when we release a 1.0, we don't have a lot of people being like, hey, this is amazing, but you don't have any kind of SSR thing, so I can't use it. And so I'm going to ignore it for the next 10 years. I think there's a risk there. So we'll have to figure some of that out. So that's where we're at as far as a 1.0 release goes. David, were there other things that you wanted me to cover? Do you want to talk about the core team? And
yeah, why don't you let me share a screen? I was going to share the contributors page with the updated core team, and if Tom, you just want to introduce that and talk about people, yeah, and who everyone is, that'd be great. But I'll share the page.
Great. So we've been talking from the very beginning, sort of about governance, Redwood governance. What is the core team look like? What are the layers of how people fit into that, and what kinds of titles do we give people? How do we recognize those contributors that have really gone above and beyond and bring them into the system and recognize them and give them power over where the framework is going and what is the path for any of you watching or anyone who's a contributor to achieve this next level of participation and empowerment when it comes to RedwoodJS, because this project is much bigger than us. We started it with the idea that this would be a framework that could serve many people in a lot of different use cases. And in order to build it, we need a lot of different perspectives, people from different backgrounds, people with different needs to come in. And so we started with the concept of having what we called community leads. So we had the core, which is me and Peter, who's not able to be here today, and David and Rob, who you see on the screen. And then we had a second tier that was community leads that we would have this higher level of conversations with, and we get together in separate meetings and go over the topics that were top of mind. And then we had sort of these public meetings, and we also have another set of meetings for people that are contributors, for people that are actively contributing beyond just a one and done kind of drive by. So there was like these 4 sort of levels of things. It started to feel pretty complicated. And then we were thinking about what's the difference between core, what we were thinking about as the 4 of us that were kind of founders, and then the next level down, and thinking, well, there really doesn't need to be a distinction there. And so what we've come up with is a simplification where core is now this larger group of people, and to communicate this well, then we've attached titles to each of the people in the core. So if you can scroll up just a little bit more, David, to get the photos there. Then you'll now see that me and Peter and Rob and David, we're labeled as founders and leadership. We take on this role. Founders is just a historical aspect. But really what matters is that we represent the leadership team. And so we take it upon ourselves to organize and arrange the meetings and to really be in a leadership role when it comes to how the framework is progressing and just keep things moving forward. We're always there. We're the rock. We're always rolling things forward. And then over time, we've added other people based on their level of commitment. So everyone that you see now here on the core team has had a long demonstrated commitment to the things that we care about in Redwood. So Dom he started with helping out a lot with documentation and has worked on the code, things in the router and elsewhere, and just kind of jumped in across things, and also represents advocacy. So he goes and he does outreach and he's talking to people. And then Robert has done a bunch on testing. And so maintainer means that this is a person that's working on the code, like in the code base itself, really working on how the framework itself works. David did a ton of stuff early on around authentication and continues to explore the full breadth of what it means to what things are possible within the Redwood ecosystem. And he's just been consistently involved at a very deep level. And so we asked him to join the core team. And he also, you'll see him in the forums and in the Slack and elsewhere, constantly responding very quickly and engaging the community. So you see him as also a community, having a community title there. Danny also became involved early on, similar types of role to David, to DT. Has his own startup that he's working on and has really pushed things forward on pre-rendering, what some of that could look like. And again, is maintainer and community. Toby is responsible for a lot of the Windows. Like if you're a Windows person, you have Toby to thank for that working at all on your Windows system, because we are Mac people. And so he always does the hard work of coming in after we develop some new feature, and screw it up on Windows, and then he's always there and has been amazing at making sure that stuff works on Windows. So huge thanks to Toby. Aldo is responsible. He's a big thinker. He always pushes us to think more deeply, and has done a huge amount of the work on making the VS Code plugin a reality. This was something that he was doing for his startup, and has now contributed this back as they've changed their strategy a little bit to become an open source part of Redwood itself. So if you use the VS Code plugin, This relies on a lot of code in the framework itself that we call the structure package within Redwood that allows it to that allows the VS Code plugin to programmatically access and understand the structure of a Redwood application so that we can expose that information into VS Code and allow you to create routes and things right from the routes file, and get a really cool outline view of your application, which is in a lot of ways can fit your mental model of how you're thinking about a Redwood app much better, as well as doing things like diagnostics. So run a diagnostics process on your Redwood app to make sure that, for instance, if you have something defined in your SDL file for a GraphQL endpoint, that you have an implementation of that in your services. So things that would otherwise be impossible to do, the structure part of Redwood is making those possible. And Aldo built out pretty much all of that. And then Peter came in and helped integrate it. And then Anthony just joined us on the core team 2 days ago and has been everywhere doing podcasts, doing Twitch streams, writing blog posts, just like really taking our outreach to the next level and doing it, just getting the visibility of Redwood out and just relentlessly doing that. And he's been doing that for a month, several months. And so we asked him to come on to really amplify our outreach and education. And so you'll see from this structure that it's not just code. Things matter a lot more to us than just code. Like there's all of these things combined, and that's where you see Claire come in. Claire has been leading up our translation efforts. So we're soon going to have some additional translations for the main chunks of documentation that we have. So primarily, we're going to start with the tutorial, so that we'll have, and we have a French translation in the works for that, and hope to have many more, so that the tutorial can be enjoyed by people that are not primary English speakers and might like to go through the tutorial in their own native language. So she's on the maintainers team because she's doing and writing the code that is going to make the translations possible. So she's kind of coordinating the translation process in general and working on the infrastructure necessary to get that up online and make it easy to switch between the translations and whatnot. So this is what the core team is currently. Hopefully that's a lot easier to understand. Any of you can be on the core team watching if you want to put in the time. If you think that this could be something that you're interested in, let us know. We're happy to tell you the types of things that we're really looking for additional help on. And we'd be happy to help you level up it to a place where we would invite you on to the core team. We're not trying to make it super exclusive. It's more about, are you there really putting the time in and the thought in to help Redwood reach the next level? So this is how we're thinking about this now, but we're very happy having you just be users. We love users. We love people who are just a one-time contributor or make a single spelling fix in the documentation. All of these levels are awesome for us. So there's no obligation to do any of this, but if you're interested in it, we're interested in helping you get to the next level of contributorship and empowerment within Redwood. So thank you all for being here. Thank you to everyone who's contributed. Thank you especially to the core team for the tremendous amounts of work that you've all done to get Redwood to where it is today. There would be no Redwood that looked anything like this without this broader team of people.
Hear, hear. Yeah, it's been such a pleasure. So I owe the community some documentation that'll be coming soon, within days. We want to review it, but we'll make it public because we want to talk transparently about how the Redwood community at large is structured. And we're really just trying to put some names to things that are already happening. But there's a lot of ways to participate, as Tom mentioned. And for those that want to do more or have ownership over things, we're creating the structure because we just want to empower people and make sure it's done in a way where there's the right structure in place, the right permissions, and the right visibility across the community. But you don't have to do that either to be a part of the community, right? Take on more is not necessary. There's a lot of ways to be involved. So more documentation coming, and it's our mantra as we're kind of saying it more. It's just emerging is by helping others be successful with Redwood is how we make Redwood successful. So that's what's been happening. So everyone you saw on the core team, that's the ethos that they've been about. And there wasn't really a core team that they wanted to be a part of. It just, because of the things they were doing and how they were being helpful and taking ownership over time, the core team just kind of emerged because it needed to happen. These people were doing amazing things. So yeah, come one, come all. If you're interested, reach out to us, and we'd all be happy to field questions about it. So thanks, Tom. Excited. And all these people, yeah, are just great. So find everyone on the core team, on the forums and in Discord. If you have questions, reach out to them. And Rob is great too. I don't want to leave you out, Rob. So yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I want to say, like, core team doesn't imply a certain level of experience either. Like, it's not like you have to be a senior developer or a principal engineer. There's people like you could be just out of boot camp. It's just showing the interest in and wanting to participate. Anybody can be on core.
Thank you, Rob. That's actually really important. So we have a real diverse range of experience and backgrounds on the current core team. And that's why there's different roles for people who want to do different things. But documentation, if you're new to Redwood and new to our community, we talk a lot about how documentation is as important as code. And that's where Dom has helped out a ton with documentation, but it's a great place to contribute in a very meaningful way to this project. It doesn't require 2 decades of dev experience. And there's a lot of ways to contribute to code as well that doesn't require 2 decades of experience. But just to say, there's a lot of ways to participate. So we're excited about community, and we could probably keep talking about it for a while. But on to the demos. All right.
You want to mention stickers while we're talking about community?
We could. I mean, I had a whole slide. I had a sticker slide prepared.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
Everyone forget you heard that.
Well, then I forget the sticker slide. So, all right, you guys stick around up here. I'm going to set up for my demo. Let me get the screen share going, and you stay, please, and be a part of it, because I'll need help when I forget to talk about things. I want the entire screen. All right, we're going to get the. Can I do it? Can I do it? There we go. All right, everyone see my screen okay? Tom, Rob, I can't see anything anymore other than my screen. So you'll have,
yes.
Okay, good. I'm going to ask questions to the internet, and that means one of you help me out. All right. So the demo my name is David again, and the David Price is where you can find me, especially across the forums and in Discord. I'm active as well as other people. If you have any questions, want to reach out to me another time, please do it that way. So I want to talk about things that are new in Redwood, as well as highlighting the developer experience end to end. But one important thing that's new, and we love talking about these things, is just community momentum that's happening in Redwood. So we have, at last count as of last night, we have over 157 contributors across all the projects in Redwood, which is just amazing. We've had over 20 minor releases since we started in March with the .1. The project started a couple of years ago, but the first public release was .1, and we're at over 5,000 stars on GitHub. So the momentum and where Redwood is at today, thanks to this amazing community, is definitely something to be highlighted. And for everyone that's helped get us here, it's just been a blast. And for anyone that wants to come on board and be a part of Redwood finishing getting to V1 and beyond, we'd love to have you. It's only going to continue to be more fun. In this demo, I want to highlight the architecture and the tooling, and then we'll do a walkthrough fairly quickly. So this is going to be the drinking from the fire hose version of what it looks like to init, scaffold, storybook, test, and deploy. And the reason I'm highlighting this is twofold. Rob is working on the tutorial part 2, and the tutorial part 2 is the final encapsulation of the initial developer experience that Redwood has always been meant to have. And there were some missing pieces along the way, but as Rob has been finishing the tutorial part 2, which we need because we do a README driven development. Like Redwood started as a tutorial, and then the code and features were developed to match that experience. We realized some things were missing in the first tutorial to get us to V1. So that's why there's going to be a tutorial part 2. And there's some new things in there that are now at the final stages of completion. We wanted to highlight those. And the other reason I want to show you these things is because when Chris Burns comes up and talks about his experience building his application on Redwood, it'll make sense. He's not going to get too deep into the code, but you'll have some concepts and some sense of what he's talking about at the code and framework level and why he was able to pull off a fairly complex application with Everfund. So that's where we're headed. Let me start with the Redwood architecture. So Tom did this, and I love it because of the squiggly line. But first, what are the bits and pieces? What is the tooling and the aspects of how Redwood is architected? Let's real high level quickly from this. So the squiggly line is the internet, and that's a perfect felt representation of the internet, right? That's how it really is. So here's the internet squiggly line. And there are three main pieces to remember about Redwood. It is React on the front end. It is GraphQL on the front end and the back end for the API. And there's this other tool, Prisma, that is what allows Redwood to manage database modeling, migrations, applying migrations, and all the query, the connection, effectively a DB client. That's all happening with Prisma. So in this graph, there is, over here is the GraphQL API. So Redwood is both a front end and a back end. And that API is GraphQL using Apollo. That runs serverlessly. So we talk about Redwood being edge ready. So Redwood is out of the box meant to deploy serverlessly. So if you use Netlify, that will be on AWS Lambdas. You can also deploy to AWS serverless directly. But right, so hosted here, the GraphQL API on AWS Lambdas for serverless. There's also inside of that, Prisma is what's going to be connecting to the database, right? So that's how the API works and the database is connected. You also have a website, which is deployed to a CDN. So again, in a serverless environment. And these assets, these static assets from the CDN are what are served to the clients, in this case, the browser, which is Redwood's running a React front end. Because of the GraphQL API, the other thing in this diagram to highlight is that the GraphQL API can serve multiple clients. Christopher Burns will talk more about this when he shows his app, but in this case, you can see how it's serving a CLI. So there's some fun things you can do with the clients you can serve from a singular API, as well as all the integrations you can do from the same API. So that's, again, remember React, remember GraphQL, and remember Prisma. Those are the main building blocks of Redwood. And this is on our forums, the Redwood architecture diagram. I wanted to highlight this here. If you have questions about this or want to see more of this, just search for this on our forum. And there's discussion topic here ready to go. And now I think we're ready to dive into some code. Yeah, let's do it. That's what's up next. Okay, tutorial. Oh, these are some good notes to start with. So if the best place, if you haven't yet, to get started with Redwood is on the tutorial. So that's redwoodjs.com tutorial. I'll go right here, start the tutorial. Also here from the left column, tutorial, and there's a lot of documentation I want to show there. But that's the best place to get started, and the best place to learn Redwood is through the tutorial. What I'll be showing you here is the tutorial part 2. This is the bleeding edge code. Rob's been working on it. It's about ready to go. But that's so you'll be seeing the state of the Redwood project you built in tutorial part 1 and what it's going to look like to get started in tutorial part 2. And as you're getting started with Redwood, become a part of our community. Drop in and say hi on our forums or on our chat. A part of Redwood is not just experiencing the framework, it's experiencing the community. So we invite everyone to drop in, just say hi and let people know that you're getting started with Redwood. We'd love to help you out along the way if you have any questions, especially if you want to build more. We love helping people build new projects with Redwood. All right, that said, let's talk about some code. So the first thing, we're going to go from init to how to scaffold, and then quickly things around deployment, testing, and RedwoodJS. So let me take a look at, let's do tooling first. All right, this is a Redwood project. Actually, I'm a little bit off. How would you start a Redwood project? It's probably the best place to go. Redwood is using Yarn. So if you want to roll out a brand new Redwood project, let me show you that first, then we'll talk about some tools you'll want to use. the first thing you'll do is go to the command line, and any Redwood project starts with a yarn create command. It's Redwood app. In this case, the name of the project, let's call it the RedwoodJS Meetup project. And that's everything you need to initialize a new Redwood project. And to make this quicker for now, don't worry about this command, no yarn install. I just want to show you the flow and the process of getting started. So what this is doing is downloading all the code that you need. It's going to do a few setup commands and then initialize the node modules with yarn. It's going to install the node modules with yarn. And there's a bunch of help text that comes out, places to get going with yarn or with your Redwood project. And that's it. You'll have your project up and running. And this is what you'll see when you load up your first Redwood project. You'll get this kind of information here. And Redwood, real quick on the structure and the code that you're seeing, Redwood is a mono repo. We use Yarn workspaces. And I talked about React, GraphQL, Redwood having a front end and a back end. So that's represented right here. So the back end is in the API directory. And this would be, don't have time to get too deep into all these things here. All the source code, this is where the business logic is going to be for your Redwood application. So your SDL files for GraphQL, your functions, that will become both your API, and then also if you need AWS Lambda functions, you create more there. Services is where the logic will live for your files. And I mentioned Prisma for the database. You have a DB directory here under the API. And I'll show a little bit more of what's happening with these files. We'll look at the schema.prisma in a bit. But that's your backend. That's your API. Then you have your web. This is where your React components will live. There's a few other things. You'll notice we have Tailwind running on this application. But that's the project structure in a nutshell. All right, a few tools that you'll need to well, you'll find really useful for your Redwood project. So first, Redwood loves the command line. So yarn Redwood, that's the main command. And let me just show you all the commands here with the help command. You can find all the different commands for Redwood here at the command line. And then you can dig into these to see more of things that are happening. There's great documentation online as well. But a new command that some people might not have seen is this yarn Redwood setup command. So I can type yarn Redwood is the abbreviation for Redwood setup, and then help. This will show us the setup command and then the options we currently have. So what a setup command does, again, this is new in Redwood, it allows you to do a one-time add code, setup configuration, install packages that are needed for different settings and configuration you might need for yours. For example, there's an I18N. So for internationalization, there's a setup I18N command. I've already run the Tailwind command on this project. It does a quick setup of Tailwind and all the code and configuration you need, as well as Webpack. And there's a few more coming, but that's a new command in Redwood. And again, I got to that by typing yarn Redwood setup help, and you can see those commands. So another tool that's really helpful is this Aldo. Tom mentioned Aldo worked on the Redwood VS Code extension, and here it is. So VS Code, Redwood IDE, and this is an incredibly helpful tool that integrates directly with your Redwood project to become an IDE. So I'll show you this outline really quickly. It gives you an outline command. So at the command palette, you can run all the command line commands, not all of them, especially the generate commands. You'll see right there, you can generate right from the command palette. You have diagnostics built in. So if you're familiar with Prettier and ESLint, it's similar to that, but it's for a Redwood project, and make sure that your Redwood project is set up correctly. So this Redwood outline is coming from the IDE, and I can kind of think about my project as a Redwood project, right? So I can look at all the routes in my routes file, all the pages that I have. There's some really cool preview features coming with pages in the future. Components, layouts, the functions that are running right now, it's the GraphQL API, and some cool commands to get things running. So for example, Storybook, I could run the dev right here from the outline. So that is the Redwood IDE. A new tool that we have in Redwood is fast refresh. So this is for this is something that's happening during dev time, and this is new in version 0.21. So I've added to my Redwood TOML experimental fast refresh. You could learn more about this in the current release notes. If you go to GitHub, the Redwood project, in the release notes for 0.21, you'll see information about how to set up fast refresh. So I added this to my Redwood TOML config. And what this does is it makes it really handy when I run my project. So let's take a look at what this looks like. Yarn Redwood dev spins up my local API server, my local web server, so I can run this project. And fast refresh is a new tool that just makes the that hot reload, hot refresh experience happen when your server is running and you want to make changes to your code. So it works with refresh. Danny, who is here at the meetup, is the one that added this fast refresh to the Redwood framework. So if you have any questions about how this works or why you'd want to do it, ask Danny. So what I'll show you, do this quickly. How am I doing on time? You know what? I'm actually going to skip this for now. But if you were to make any changes to your code, so CSS changes, change a header, it just really quickly makes a change. And I'm video streaming. My computer just starts to run slow when everything's happening. So we'll let this spin up. Here's our Redwood blog right now. This is where you start for the tutorial too. And you'll just have to trust me that fast refresh really enhances your local development experience. All right. Okay, so that is some new tools. Definitely check those out if you haven't yet, and a little bit on how the Redwood project is structured. So what is, okay, the next thing we want to talk about. So yeah, what can we do here with the Redwood project? Something that you'll learn in the tutorial is how to do authentication. So I am logged in here. And what I want to show you next is how Redwood handles quickly scaffolding a user interface based on your API and your database schema. So let's create a new one here. Hi, Redwood Meetup. Welcome to tutorial part 2. All right. We created a blog, all these things. I'm going to show you how this is scaffolded, but I could edit this blog. All right. We'll just add a rocket because everybody loves rockets. I could edit right from here. And then if I want to see this on the home page, right? So there is a blog post that I just created. Now, where is all this coming from inside of Redwood? All right. So we have two things going. One was the UI that I just used to create a post, edit a post, update a post, and then I could also delete that. And then it's displaying on my Redwood blog. And where that's happening is inside of both the web and API. So the API has specific services that I can run queries and mutations to create a blog post, and the web has React components that allow me to do that. But let's say, for example, I forgot to add the author. Oh, and by the way, comments is coming. This will be new in the Redwood tutorial part 2. You'll learn how to add comments to this blog post. That'll be fun. So in Redwood, we have a schema that is modeling our database. So I forgot to add something to a post. I don't have any authors here. So conceptually, this is a big leap. And let me just start from here. To have an API in the back end, you're going to be working with data. And Prisma is how Redwood is configured out of the box to work with data. And this file, schema.prisma, allows me to think about the structure of the data I need to have, right? So you can think of these as tables in your database, right? So I've created a model that's a post, a model that's a contact, and comments. Don't have time to go into all that today, but using syntax, I could say, oh, I'm missing a field in my database. I need an author. I can say what type of field that's going to be, which would be a string. And I know this is going through things really quickly, but I also have a Prisma extension that gives me some nice helpers here about what kind of syntax I can use. But I want to add an author, so that needs to be in my database. It needs to be in a table It needs to be a field. And I can set a default value for that, right? So in this case, let's make it the David. And that's it. There's nothing more complex going on here other than I've said I need to structure my data in a specific way, and I'm using Prisma, the Prisma schema to do that. Okay, and workflow-wise, Redwood makes it really nice to take that schema and now apply it to the database. So my local database, I have a command, yarn redwood db save, and I want to save a state of this. It's creating a migration, but I want to save a state of this schema that I could then apply because I want to deploy this to production later. So redwood db save. There we go. I just created, you'll see it ran the Prisma migrate. And then I want to, now that I've created that migration, I also need to say, okay, let's apply that to my local development environment. And I'm just taking the state of that schema, and in 2 steps, I'm now applying it to my local database. And I should show you where that is. So my local database, I'm using SQLite locally, and that's what this devdb is. That's a local database running SQLite, where all the data that's happening for development is living right now. If I flip over to my project here, wrong shortcut commands, and I'll go back to the admin, and let's go to the posts, right, and see that. Okay, so I created this new title schema. Wait, it's not here yet. Okay, and that's of course I made changes to my database, but now I have to make changes to my user interface on the website. And so typically there are a whole lot of React components that I would have to be thinking about to make this work, right? I would need to update every React component for create to add this author field to it, for my delete, for my edits, my updates. I would have to go in and make changes to my query in React, but Redwood handles and thinks about all that for you. So let's run a command. I talked about the Redwood generate commands before. Now that I have this post, I want to reapply yarn redwood generate a scaffold. All right, so this will do all of my CRUD for post. Now, I've already done this before, so I need to use the force command. And without that, it won't overwrite. But if I do that, let me make this a little bit bigger so you can see all of the different files. Right? So this I would have had to do by hand typically. So all these different files that just got updated so that I now have applied, look at that. I now have applied what I wanted my database model to be and my data structure to be. I've now applied that to my CRUD, and it created that default. Remember the David? So I could save that. If I do something, let's create a new post, another post from me. So easy, right? Another rocket. All right, save. And now I have 2 posts. And if I go to the front page of my blog, oh, wait. So this is where I do need to do a little bit of manual work, right? We're not seeing that author field yet. I want to introduce another concept for Redwood called Redwood cells. So Redwood thinks about data on the front end in a very specific way, and that's through these cells. So let's go to blog post cell, blog post, and I'll show you what a Redwood cell is. Redwood cell is effectively like it's a higher order component in React, but all you need to know is it's one file that lets you on the front end. So now we're talking about the web in this case. It lets you query. It handles your loading, empty, failure, and success state all in one file. So it's doing a little bit of magic, but it's piecing a lot of things together in the back end so that all you need to do to make updates on the front end, right? So here's a blog post cell. I'm adding the author field right here to my query. There's another one, the blog posts cell, right? So that's plural. Need to add author here. Save that. And I'll show you there's one component I need to update as well. And that component we can see here in the success state. is the blog post. So let's go ahead and pull up blog post. And maybe right about, so that's our header. Right about here, let's do an H3. Let's add our post author and a little bit, we're using Tailwind, which Rob has me on the Tailwind bandwagon. It's just fantastic. So look how easy this is. This used to be so hard, and all I have to do is go font, light, italic, class name, and now I have a thing. And so now let's go back to our front end, and there it is. So in 3 lines of code, 3 lines in 3 files, plus running a scaffold generator, I was able to get to the I completed all of my admin backend, and I updated my front end CRUD. So that's pretty magic, right? it just worked, right? Go in here, and here's where we can see that. Okay, so now I have all my changes, and what I want to do is deploy this. So we'll do these next steps quickly. I want to highlight 3 more things, and then we're going to hand this over to Bernsey. But let's just go ready to deploy. We'll apply all of these. And I'm going to go ahead and push this, but while it's running, we'll give it some time. So Redwood uses Jamstack methodology to deploy. And what I've already done in this project via a command, because Redwood is a command for everything, is do a setup for Netlify. And using Jamstack methodology, all I now need to do once I'm set up to deploy to Netlify, and I do already have some things in production, I'll show you ready to go. I have a Netlify account. I have a Heroku database. I just use a free tier database. It's Postgres. And all I need to do is push, and then Netlify is going to run everything that needs to happen to build my site and deploy it to the world of serverless magic. So git push, that's running. We're going to check back in just a second. Let me show you the site live right now. So this is the David Redwood demo and Netlify app. Here is the site right now, and we can see that no changes are happening here. We'll check back in the Netlify deploy, but all that's going to run in the background while I show you 2 more things quickly. Remember, I mentioned that there's some fun things that have happened with tests, and I need to get my terminal back up here, and Storybook. So while deploy is building, I'll close these things. So you might have noticed this already, but when these components were built, there were some other files that came along, like stories and test files, when the generator was run. And what that allows you to do is now Redwood is integrated for you a Jest testing suite. So yarn Redwood test. Jest unit tests integrated from the web front end to the API back end. It starts up a test database locally. You have mocks. You'll soon have fixtures, so that everything just works out of the box with the template tests at start. So they're meaningful, but they're not complete. But it can run tests on all the components you generated, and then you can come back and update those tests as you go. So that's a part of the developer experience that just happens as you use Redwood, and it is no small feat. There were many people, Robert Boersma especially, that made this work, Peter as well, to get Redwood to work end-to-end testing out of the box, right? That's pretty sweet. And that just comes with Redwood. And then another thing that comes with Redwood is Storybook. Also no small feat to get Storybook to work across the front end to back end. So meaning your Storybook components on the front end and the cell components in Redwood is already configured to, you can mock GraphQL queries in your data in order to see what's happening in Storybook on the front end. You saw in the Redwood outline, another way to activate this with Storybook here, right? So just other ways to launch Storybook. We'll let this keep building, and I'll show you in a second. But that's out of the box. You get Storybook running in your Redwood project so that you can mock up and work with design on your components. And all that happens with Redwood just because that's the way we wanted Redwood to be. And it makes your life a little bit easier and makes projects more maintainable. I'm watching this thing spin up. There we go. All right. Let's go to, oh, that command click didn't work. So let me show you what's happening here with Storybook. And this is the Storybook for my local project. You can see, and you'll have to play with this yourself, so you don't have to take my word for it. But right in cells, so blog post, I showed you those states. Here's all the states of a cell, right? So this is dynamically loading the data. And there's my success state. And then if you look in my project at the blog post cell, what I was trying to show you there, blog post cell, you have these mock files for data. So you can actually mock your data. And that's what you're seeing here in the Storybook front end, which I mean, words can't express how amazing this is and the work that went in to get this going. So thank you. And please take it for a test drive. So lastly, let's see what happened on the front end. I'm going to refresh this site. This is the deployed site. And sometimes this doesn't work. Loading. Oh, did my deploy fail? Oh, it's still building. All right. You'll have to take my word for it. We clicked on the wrong link there, but we got to be close. We got to be close. But everything that I did locally, there we go. And now it's live. Everything that I did locally is now live on the site with a git push. There it is. It added the default value. If I log into the site, right, we could show you all the crud, but I want to get Bernsey up here. And that's all the things. That's the now soon to be complete workflow in Redwood. I'm just going to stop sharing my screen. You guys can all take my word for it, but I want to get Bernsey up here and click, stop sharing. There we go. So that is Redwood DX. All right, Tom, I can see you. Anything
stuff,
to add
David?
to get Bernsey up here?
There's a couple of questions that we can go over that we haven't answered yet. Roger was asking about V1, which I went over at the beginning. I'm not sure if you missed that, Roger. Version 1 probably is going to be first quarter next year. We're not going to probably hit the end of this year because we're getting into the holiday season here pretty soon, and there's still a couple of big chunks, TypeScript support and some other things, logging, some basics that we'd like to get in there, at least in rudimentary form, to have a more complete framework. So we're looking Q1, first quarter 2021. And then Noah asked about Hasura, and that was answered in the chat. And Russ asks, if you've made changes to styles or structure of the code that was generated, like the create form, will that get overwritten if you use the -- force flag, or are those files meant to be changed? You want to answer that one, David?
Yes, they will. It depends on where you made the changes, but yes, if you rerun force, in that case it would be. So yeah, that could be a longer conversation, but you do have to be careful with force. It will take you, if you've done anything other than use the default UI that's generated, those things will be overridden. Chris Burns.
Hey, Bernsey.
Hello.
So you took everything that I just showed and you actually made a real thing with it. Right?
Yeah, I have. In my startup called Everfund, and we'll get into it when you're ready.
All right, we're ready. Take it away. And yeah, please, and make sure you introduce yourself. We've known you for a while, so it feels like we've got a friend up here with us. But take it away.
Okay, so that's not. There we go. Can you see the slideshow?
Looks good.
Great. Okay, so I've done a bit of some slides explaining hopefully everything, the encapsulation of everything we've built with Redwood, how we got where we are now, and the company and the technology as a whole. And then I'll give you a quick demo of what we built. So should mention my name. My name is Christopher Burns. I'm known more as Bernsey around here. You can find me on Twitter at BurnedChris. I'm the co-founder and CEO of a fintech SaaS product called Everfund. And let's get into it. So what is Everfund? So Everfund is, sorry, just move my notes over a little. There we go. So Everfund is a platform for non-profits in the UK to increase donation opportunities using donation links. These donation links can be in physical places using QR codes, NFC tags, or the links, or it could be on digital places like Facebook and Instagram. We're a fundraising platform that's basically trying to become the single source of truth for these for our non-profits, meaning anytime they want to either input or output information through their fundraising teams, it will go through Everfund. Our stage one of the company is starting with payments, and then in the future, we will be working on integrations. So we capture more information. So in the UK, we have a tax scheme called gift aid. So that means every donation that's made through our platform, if you're a UK taxpayer, you can add 25% through the donation using a government scheme automatically. We have loads of features that I'm sure we'll get into. And we're really working on what works best for the charities, trying to pinpoint where worked well and where didn't. For example, year over year, as our non-profits start using Everfund, we'll be able to say, this time last year, this campaign raised this amount of money. When your campaign this year raised this amount of money, what did you do different? So giving them real good insights in how it works, how things change, and giving them the tools they need to bring their charity into the, obviously, modern tech. So how did we get to Redwood? Well, it first started with an MVP that wasn't built in Redwood, and then a lot of technical debt later, and we moved into Redwood. But first, I'm going to show you our quick tech stack of our old MVP. So as two graduates, a business founder and a technology founder, we had to basically figure out what idea we wanted to go down, figure something that was passionate to us, a gap in the market, and start following it, really. So for me, I'd worked in a few technology jobs before, but this was my first rodeo on a lot of these things. Building a whole technology product is massive work for the first time if you've never done it before. And I made some bad choices, but some good ones that transferred over well into Everfund platform, such as our server was in Happy, that was Dockerized with a Prisma client. So Prisma 1, if you didn't know, used to have to be Dockerized and was communicated through a GraphQL client. So they were both hosted on a DigitalOcean account, and they were communicated with a Mongo database. And then we used Stripe Connect and Gatsby to really close the gap on our clients. We had two clients. The first one was our donation links. So as I said before about multiple touch points around the internet, if you think of something like a URL shortener and then add the ability to make a donation through it, that's basically what our donation links are. And they had to be generated en masse. So a charity may generate 500 links for 500 different locations, or just one link for a Facebook post. So we came across this thing of it needed to be manageable, and it also needed to be basically SEO, so server-side rendered, so the Open Graph could work. So we picked Gatsby at the time because it seemed like the best option, as every time a link was made, we would trigger a rebuild. The rebuild would then rebuild all the links on the platform, given the OG data. You can see where the problems start massing. The more and more links that go onto the platform, if one person wants to change one link, the whole platform has to be rebuilt. So it didn't go that well. And our dashboard was very much cobbled together, I would call it a mess now, of trying to connect all the things and make sure they work. And we'll move it into what went wrong with our MVP. So Prisma 1 support was ending as there was no longer updating it because they've moved on to Prisma 2. The auth was 100% custom with auth 0. As I said, everything was custom, so it was built from tutorials and demos and all just cobbled together into a working state. And that means because we were sharing code from other developments and demos and repos. There was no standardized patterns. The API turned out to be really hard to develop because as it was in GraphQL and Prisma, some things Redwood shares, it used Prisma Nexus as the base repository framework. And that made it really hard to work with but it also did offer the CRUD operations. Gatsby didn't fulfill our needs, as I quickly talked about, and the technical debt was really high. We got the platform to our MVP to prove that we could make donations in this short URL well. And then the platform started to get really, really hard to develop with. So then we took the decision to move into Redwood. So why did we pick Redwood? Well, as David and Tom go on about, there's so many benefits to Redwood, but how do these matter to developers? How do they matter to you that starting a company who want to progress fast? Well, just to highlight a few of them, easy deployments is something that is so overlooked when you're a 1 or 2 person team. You don't have time to constantly, looking around the rafters. Why isn't this working? What's that stopped working? Easy Git-based deploy is a real big solution to that. The automatic scaffolding of Redwood helps us get going with our new prototype a lot faster. The ability to host it in server full or serverless really gave us the option to test which one worked best for Everfund. The Redwood SDLs replace the Prisma Nexus for us in a lot easier way of defining your GraphQL graph. TypeScript support, while it's shaky at times, is getting a lot better in Redwood, and I'm so happy to use it. And my favorite thing about Redwood overall is a lot of the patterns are already picked for you. You would be surprised how simple a cell can simplify your workflow because it's got to go into them 5 things. Every component is no longer different because it's in the cell format. So that brings a lot of standardization to your technology. So we'll just move it forward so here's our new technology stack and how it's been built with Redwood. We'll see that it's slightly different to our previous one, but still very similar with some new decisions made. We see that our dashboard is in Redwood and our API is in Redwood, with connecting technologies such as magic.links for authorization, Postmark for emails, and Stripe Connect Custom to handle all of our payments. And then we also have our donation links. While multi-site client support is not fully supported with Redwood, that doesn't stop you if you understand the fundamentals of Redwood, and that is Apollo. Anywhere Apollo can be accepted, you can speak to it from your GraphQL server. So for us, that meant we got all the benefits that are currently happening with Next.js on our donation links, where then benefits weren't required, and we would rather go with all the other benefits of the scaffolding, the automatic auth on the Redwood dashboard. So it's very much for us. Every time we thought of a side that Everfund needed, we looked at which framework suited it best. Currently, our dashboard, Redwood suits it best, and our donation links, Next suits it best for the ISSG support. Why is that important? Well, say the charity on the dashboard sets up 20 new links and they put them all into test mode. So that means they can go through them, they can test it, make sure it's what they want. Then they decide, okay, I want to take this live. Whenever Next.js reads that page the next time, it will automatically update the state of that page in the background. So it'll automatically take links live to test. It'll automatically change the background, the colors, the text, if it's needed to. And it does that all automatically, simply through interacting with the database. It's real quite magic. As you can see, everything's currently hosted on DigitalOcean, more of a monolithic structure. We tried serverless, but we just felt it didn't live up to our expectations right now. and we prefer to just run it on PM2, and we found it a lot more stable and faster, really. You'll see that our donation links are currently hosted on Vercel, but sooner or later they're also going to be moved into the monolithic structure. So that's really how our technology stack has evolved from a bit of a hell situation with everything's just across the board trying to work everything out and get a product out there, to something far more defined, structured, with a lot of opinionated solutions already picked for us. So what else has Redwood done for us? So when we updated and rebuilt our first version, as we say, our soft launch, we now also have team management by default. So every team, you can have multiple people or one person can be part of multiple teams. It's a lot more easier when Redwood helps you control the context and the auth, because the simplest way to swap teams is by saying, I'm in team A in the context, and then now I'm in team B in the context. And then you just pass that in to your Prisma 2 function, saying, now save this to team B, or now save this to team A. With a bit of UI, it's really quite easy to do. We also have simpler auth with magic links, meaning that our customers, they're part of non-profits, so they're not very technological, and they sometimes struggle with passwords and usernames and keeping them up to date. So we decided to go with magic links, and it has proven to be a success. And we've seen our onboarding uptick faster and less problems with onboarding as well. We have better error handling. So we replaced the error handling with app signal. So on the dashboard, the links and the API, app signal runs, and it creates a really nice UI in their dashboard that gives you a whole monitor of how long some functions took, how were the outputs expected, was there any errors. I really do recommend it. We also had user logs. So anytime a service is called, why not log that information of who ran it, what was their IP, what was the function as well, and also RBAC support. And we took it a level further. We have, so the default Redwood way is with Auth0 right now. And that is, roles. So janitor, admin, read only. We decided to take it a bit further with custom roles. So, and custom permissions. So for example, you can have read only accounts or admin accounts. You can really define the permissions very finite to what they require, a very enterprise feature. So that's really everything of the quick overview, and it's time for a demo, really. So, okay, so here we go. Let's just exit out that. So we're going to start with what the consumer sees, the donator's customer at the end, the non-profit's customer at the end of the day. So this is one of our donation links inside of Next.js, and this is communicating through GraphQL Apollo to our Redwood API. And what this does is quite simply is navigating through Stripe. So as some users would understand, as even though the services have Prisma 2 already baked into them, Prisma 2 doesn't need to be the only things that is. For example, sometimes information is just straight passed to Stripe and returned, and other times information is passed to our database through Prisma 2, giving us the best of both worlds. The only caveat with that stage right now is, while the generators are amazing at doing your Prisma code, you're writing them SDLs for Stripe by yourself at this stage. So it's the best of both worlds. And Stripe's API is big, so you have to cut it off at some point and say, this graph is no longer going bigger. I don't care about Bitcoin at this stage. So as you see, we have one of our core features that is the end user can cover the fee of the nonprofit. And we find 95% of the time it's covered. just a nice little form. I'll just put some of my information in, and I struggle to spell my name. And we're going to see in a second. We're going to see in a second that the payment will go through, and it will then talk to Stripe. What's happening in the background here is the payment's just been confirmed on the client, and then in the background, Stripe's API is now talking to our Redwood server through webhooks. What then happens is Stripe tells our Redwood server, hey, this payment's just been completed. You need to update our Prisma 2 database, say this payment's been completed. And then you also need to send an email out saying, hey guys, this is how much you donated. So a real full end experience, if that makes sense. And now the second side. So I've just showed you what the end user sees on the Next.js client. This is obviously all communicating through Redwood. And now I'm going to show you the dashboard. So this dashboard has been built with the magic of the Redwood technology. And we're going to quickly log in through Magic Links. I don't know if any of you have done that before. And you'll see that what happens is Magic Link sends you a nice little email. You click log in. It opens a link and it says you're now logged into Everfund. And then 1 or 2 seconds later, it logs you in. And then as we said about team management, it then gives me my choice to create a team or pick a current team. I'm just going to pick my current team of my company, Tap Studio. And as you can see, no donations have been made, but that's because that's in live mode. What else has been added to our platform is that we now have a test mode. And this is obviously all possible through the cells. All of this management of these tables of what's all donations, incomplete donations, test mode, not test mode. This is just done through the cell and the parameters, as you see at the top. It's filtering through the parameters. The parameters then speak to the cell. The cell obviously then fetches the data. And obviously we'll just click on the donation that I just made as a test. And you'll see this is what the charity sees, the full information. I was a bad person and chose to not let the charity contact me through GDPR, and I didn't declare gift aid. In the future, we'll be given opportunities to re-talk to the end user, to get them to add that 25% gift aid, to maybe even get them to collect more information through GDPR. That was just a quick slice of part of what Everfund is. There's a lot more that we're working on always, and that we will be talking about in the future. So how many developers? This was done, all of that I've just showed you was done by myself in 4 months. It would not have been possible without Redwood. It has saved me countless hours. And just a quick fact, this repository, this dashboard and API, the first version it was on was Redwood 0.8.0. And it has been updated all the way to 0.20. Great. When we're still going forward, we're currently looking to raise our seed round so we can expand the team and hit the bigger tasks. And with that, we'll be looking for more developers. And we specifically will be looking for Redwood developers. All of our technology is in Redwood, so why not hire straight from the source? We'll be hiring work from home roles, hopefully around Europe at first. And you can obviously follow me on Twitter or my company, Everfund UK. And when we do that, we'll be shouting about that. We also have a podcast, me and Anthony, one of the core team now, where we talk about all the things happening in the full stack Jamstack. Tom was recently our guest on episode 4 and David on episode 2. I really recommend a listen because they're a deep diver than the standard, here's what RedwoodJS is. So I really do recommend a dive in. The link, you can literally search FS Jam on all podcast platforms, or you could just type fsjam.org/subscribe, and then it will give you the links to all the platforms. One of my final slides was I've took this from Twitter shamelessly without even watching Jason's pitch, was that he said, don't be nice, be kind. And this resonated with me because a lot of my tech support in these months have been from other Redwood members. The platform that I've just showed you would not be where it is now without the support from people like Peter, David P, David T, Danny. You know, all of you guys have made Everfund what it is. And without your guys' help and expertise, it really wouldn't be where it is now. So why I like this statement, you know, don't be nice, be kind. If you can spend your time to, you know, help people move things forward, please do, because it's a really great cause and it really will help a lot of developers going forward. Final slide. So yeah, that's me, Christopher Burns. I'm co-founder, CEO, tech lead of Everfund. My Twitter username is BurnedChris. If you'd like to, you know, contact me personally about anything, any questions or anything, my email is christopher@everfund.co.uk. We do have a website, but our new website is going to be updated soon when we soft launch in the upcoming weeks. That's everything. Thanks for your time, and thank you for letting me demonstrate what I've built with Redwood.
Yeah, fantastic, Chris.
There we go.
That's amazing, Christopher. That's so. It's so. I haven't seen your stuff before. It was really a pleasure to get the demo there and look at the architecture.
Yeah.
And see how much you've been able to accomplish. It makes me super happy thinking
exactly.
That we get there.
When I say, you know, our first version, it was built trying to just work out how all of these things work and using surprisingly all the same concepts Redwood came to be. It just was a little bit too early. And obviously I didn't have all the time to write that magic that just makes it so easy with Redwood.
Yeah, and that's such a big part of what we're trying to do is integration, is finding these tools that people do gravitate towards to solve these problems and not make you do all that custom work yourself. Provide all of the foundation and the integrations. And like David was saying before, just getting Jest to work with whatever your React setup is, not trivial. Getting Storybook to work with that and then integrated with whatever your data fetching pattern is, definitely not trivial. And we're just at the beginnings of trying to make that stuff work really well. And I think we do there's some really nice things that we do there, but there's so much room still to go to go even deeper in these integrations that when you're busy working on your startup, you don't have time to spend making your integration super duper nice. That's just not your primary concern. At the end of the day, and so you'll go without.
Customers will never, ever, ever care that it's built in RedwoodJS or JavaScript even, because they don't need to know that. They're there for what our company provides them.
Yeah.
But it's great to say this is built with RedwoodJS when you're talking to other developers.
Well, I think this is the first time that anyone's ever put a job rec out for a Redwood developer. So kudos on that.
Yeah.
requires minimum 5 years experience with Redwood.
5 years experience must have been part of framework from 0.1.
Well, if you require anything over 9 months of experience, the only people you could hire would be Rob or Peter. So, yeah, Samson's joining us. We had one question for you, Chris, which was, are you using Tailwind?
Yes. So our dashboard is built with Tailwind post CSS, and our end user clients are built with twin.macro. That's Tailwind in CSS in JS. It sounds a little bit more complex than it is, but it requires us. The main reason why is when we abstract it and put it onto our customers' websites, there won't be any style conflicts. So it gives me all the benefits of writing Tailwind without no style conflicts of style sheets and obviously managing all that.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Samson, can you hear us? Are you there? Maybe.
Yes, I can hear you.
Ah, very good. Hey, thanks
Samson.
Yes,
for joining us. Tell us about yourself. Where are you right now?
Right now I'm in Kenya, Nairobi, Kenya. That's where I'm operating from. I teach JavaScript at a local boot camp around here. That's what I do for a living. I try to see what I do teach because it helps me to know JavaScript more, and in the process I decided to use React. React is what I've been doing. So when I look at Redwood, I was using some React project. I could see the syntax was familiar, and I found it very interesting. So as I came across Redwood through David Price. I just happened to find it and said, "What the hell is this Redwood thing?" And the first time I was looking at it, I saw it was talking about a tree. So I thought it was a joke. Somebody just tried to attach the word JavaScript on Redwood, and that's what I was thinking about it. So I was looking at it in detail. I found it to be an actual JavaScript thing. I said, this is something I should try. So I started watching some videos there, and then around like 3-4 hours ago, I saw there was a webinar, and I decided I will have to join you guys.
Well, thank you for joining. How'd it go? Any things? Yeah, questions or what struck you today that you saw?
Yeah, first I saw the boilerplate that's been created. It's kind of like it helps you with the configuration. That's what I liked. What David you did with the app that you deployed earlier. That's what really struck me. In fact, I tried to follow along, but I couldn't do it as fast as you were doing it. But I had some tips. Yeah. So it's something generally I would like to do because I find it's something that will be helpful for me.
Yeah, it's helpful for me too. I've learned a lot through using those generators, right?
Yeah.
Both how Redwood works, but also React. Yeah, very very fun. And so you said you are teaching at a boot camp. Did you see anything with Redwood that might be a tool you could use for your boot camp?
Generally, I will try, but I want to transition now from boot camp to actually doing projects.
Got it.
Because generally, the reason why I was teaching, I wanted to see how good I could teach, because mostly I was been using Node.js, Express, Mongo, plain JavaScript. I wanted to see how good I could teach, and if the students will appreciate what I'm doing. So that's why the reason why I was doing that. Currently, right now, I've been working on projects using React, and mostly I've been using the class-based components. Then whenever somebody wants me to make a change, I use the hooks, that kind of thing. Then when I saw this project and what you guys are doing, I said, let me try this thing because I don't see anybody talking about it. It could be great. It could be something that's very interesting. And then before I joined the webinar, I came across Tom's blog. I think he was talking about making a risk between joining Microsoft or starting GitHub. So when I looked at that, I said, this was a very tough decision for Tom himself. So I would personally say, should I continue doing the things that I've been doing, or this Redwood might be a very risky thing for me? So kind of I could say I'm in the similar situation. Should I decide to continue what I'm doing as teaching JavaScript, or I try doing projects using Redwood? And I'm feeling with the way you guys have spoken, making a decision will not be difficult for me.
Well, we're here for you, Samson. If you want to do some projects in Redwood, then the community, I think you'll find really welcoming. And like Bernsey said, we're here. Like this is what we do. This is what we love doing. We have a lot of people who are very responsive in the forums and on Slack. and whatever problems you have, or even just questions about like what is the right way to do things? What are best practices? What should you do for CSS with Redwood? How would you make those choices? Or what do you use for file uploading? Like there's all these related questions that the community here has a lot of experience with and has been very generous with their time.
Chris, do you have any thoughts on what it takes to get started on something? Like what's the thing that gets you to that first step in a project to get going? Because as Samson says, there's a lot of decision points along the way of kind of committing to do a thing.
I think nobody truly commits to anything straight away. I think you can't just say, I'm going to go out and I'm just going to stop doing whatever I do and go do something else. Well, yes, you can do that, but that's very risky. And, sometimes you may not be comfortable with that. So what I would suggest is try and work on in the background something you start feeling confident about, because confidence obviously then moves on to things like, do you believe in yourself? Can you achieve your goals that you're setting for yourself? If you're not confident with what you're doing in the first place, then you're going to struggle to obviously carry on. What I've shown today has been years in the making since graduating in 2017, and it's really, really hard. And but the fun of it is you create some really, really cool things that you want to create. No one else is telling you to create them cool things. You are the boss at that at the end of the day. So I would say give it a go, but do not pass what you feel comfortable with at this stage.
Yeah, and I have a question. Can you hear me?
Please.
Yeah. Well, do you think that as a prerequisite for somebody to do Redwood, it would be great if they do React and GraphQL first before they start doing Redwood, because maybe there could be a barrier to entry, something like that. Or it's not mandatory.
Hey Rob, did you know GraphQL and React before you started doing Redwood?
Nope. So I kind of, I learned out all simultaneously and it worked out. I mean, there were moments that were frustrating where it's like, what is this? Why do I need this SDL versus, at the time we were looking at Nexus, GraphQL Nexus. I'm like, what is the difference between these? And it's a little frustrating at first, but yeah, once you get it, it just sort of, it just works. Like learning them all simultaneously isn't that bad.
Redwood is by far the easiest way. As I said, my initial MVP, I built all of these technologies myself and I made the glue myself. And that's why it fell apart very fast. Redwood is helping you, guiding you, and opinionating you all the way through the steps, really.
This is amazing. And then there's something that Christopher said. I will find it very, very interesting. I find it very. I find it just interesting when he talks. Like for example, when somebody goes for JavaScript jobs, somebody say React developer, Angular developer, Vue developer, something like that. Then it's Christopher. I think he's coined the word Redwood developer. So that's something I found interesting, because Redwood developer is not something I would imagine. In fact, I think if I were to tell somebody, who would think I was talking over a tree in America, that tree that is very big, something like that. Yeah.
I wanted to say from your previous point, you were saying, should you keep teaching or start a project? Like, there's no reason you can't do both. Like, there's a huge market for people teaching these frameworks. Like, you'll see the guys. What is it? The Remix guys. They did what is it? React Router, but they also did like teaching React. What was their name of their? Yeah, that's they started from teaching other people how to do React, and then they sort of built side projects off of that. But the bigger Redwood gets, the more there's going to be a need for teaching redwood.com, and you go there and you pay a monthly subscription and learn how to use Redwood, and you could be the teacher.
Yeah. Hey, Samson, if you haven't dropped into our forum or our Discord, please say hi, and even just put out there who you are, but also that you're looking to dive in and start a project. And there's a lot of people that will reach out to you and share their experiences. So Anthony Campolo, who's now on the core team, He started his Redwood journey by just documenting what he'd learned to share it with other people. So kind of in a teaching capacity, but yeah, like Rob said, that could be there are a lot more people wanting to learn Redwood. We only know of one boot camp on the forum. I forget her name that did it, but she did a 2-month training that used Redwood, but it filled up. She had over 40 or so people that jumped in to learn Redwood with her. So it was a 2-month, I think it was an 6 to 8 week process that they did. And anyway, so I just want to echo what Rob said. We're seeing some people get really excited about it, but even just sharing what you learn could be a real motivation for you as you start building. It'll help you not feel alone. And we mean it. And you heard this in Chris, like by helping each other be successful with Redwood, we make the Redwood project successful. And you're witnessing the evidence of that in Chris's story.
Yeah, and there was something I was also thinking. If, let's say, I was even to tell somebody about Redwood, he will kind of, when he looks at it, he will be thinking that's just an extension of React. He will maybe might not, it will not be easy for them to, he might say, what's the point? I can see it's React code. I can simply just go to React website and that's it. And then maybe he looks at the GraphQL and it says, incorporate GraphQL. So it's just it's just a way of just telling somebody React and GraphQL together, something like that. I feel somebody might not really get into Redwood because he feels that React and GraphQL together are merged up together in Redwood. That's my feeling. Somebody might think like that.
Tom, you've hit this in a few podcasts. So first off, we should wrap up. We're 15 over and at the hour, which is this is fun. So hard to wrap up. But Tom, you've talked about kind of the why Redwood and what Redwood's long-term objectives are in several podcasts. What might be a good one to start with to answer those kind of questions for Samson, just to lend to some of the credibility and validity to like, there's more going on than, it's not just GraphQL and React. There's a lot more going on under the hood.
Yeah, I'd say it's really about thinking about a full stack web application development framework, much like Rails. So you could say, well, sure, there's React, but React is just a rendering library. Like you can't, like it does one piece of the puzzle of building a full dynamic web application. And then GraphQL also is like, okay, well, that's how you might communicate from a front end to a back end. And these are all technology choices and have alternatives. But the benefit of Redwood to me is integration. So it's always like that is really what it comes to when I think about Redwood, is that it's about the integration. It's about choosing all of these different pieces that are that could work together and then do the work to actually make them work together. Because if you start with create React app, which many people do, and create React app is a great sort of starting point that people have used for a long time, but it's a very low start. It's a very basic thing to build off of. And then you have to do so much on your own. And if you want to add GraphQL to that, then you got to make choices around how you do GraphQL. And then you got to make choices about how you fetch data from your React components through GraphQL. And so you got to make choices about how you're gonna do that and what clients you're gonna use. And then you want to run your tests on these things. And now you got to figure out how to integrate Jest. And like I said before, that is not trivial. And especially when it comes to data fetching, once you start having data fetching going on, then you got to figure out how you got to mock out your the calls to GraphQL. And so the benefit of Redwood is to say, oh, we've solved all of those things for you already. So would you rather just start with like a couple of components, React and GraphQL, and cobble something together yourself? Certainly you could. But I think you'll find that that's a very long road. And so the benefit of Redwood is the integration. It's spending the time to make these technologies work beautifully together out of the box, instead of having to realize every week that you run into some new wall that you have to then figure out how to solve.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a shame. Like Peter's here, like how many 2 weeks to get Storybook working, or 2 months to get Storybook working, like another 2 months to get Jest working. And I have like a PR open now that's improving the Jest integration. Like it's still not perfect, but you get to skip all of that work. You just create Redwood app and it all works for you. It's amazing.
Right. I mean, the amount of the months it took to get the data fetching on the Jest side working and then working with cells. Yeah, non-trivial. We didn't even know. We completely underestimated what it would take.
Well, and from a learning perspective too, I think there's a lot of power in Redwood by saying, oh, you want to learn GraphQL? Like getting GraphQL into a workable state in a React app, also very non-trivial. And so if you're just like, I want to play with GraphQL and try out some concepts, it's like, okay, well, first of all, welcome to a world of pain that you have to like figure out how to even get something set up to do it. And with Redwood, I think Redwood can be a really good learning tool by saying, you want to play with GraphQL, like here's a fully working thing that you can spin up, and instantly you've got this GraphQL thing ready to go. And you can start writing your SDL and then writing your resolvers that are really just code in your services file. So, you're learning GraphQL at a slightly higher level of abstraction in a couple of different ways, but it allows you to really experiment with the core concepts of GraphQL much more quickly than trying to get something working on top of create React app, for instance. And the same I think is true of Prisma, where it's like, if you want to play around with Prisma, then and you want to do it from scratch, like have fun. You're going to spend like 3 days just getting it, like the setup running and getting it transpiling properly with Babel. And like, there's just so much work, like grunt work that you have to do to get some of these JavaScript technologies working. And that's what was very frustrating. And a big part of why Redwood exists is to say, these technologies are amazing once you get them running, but getting them running is awful. Getting Babel configured and getting Webpack configured and getting all this stuff, like it's such a nightmare. And it's such a barrier to entry for people coming into a JavaScript-based development framework. But like once you get there, once you get that baseline kind of figured out, then it's really fast and really amazing and really performant and has a lot of amazing benefits.
Is that configuration is normally a problem with people. You struggle. I even sometimes don't like it because you want to teach a particular thing, you find the configuration slows you down.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
I was just going to say, a lot of the time we always speak a lot about technical debt. How is our code making it harder to code? But what about the opposite, technical wealth? And Redwood automatically doing all these integrations for you is adding a lot of technical wealth that you never need to worry about. And the other thing is that technical wealth with Redwood is only getting bigger and bigger. The more things it can do, the more things you can do easier, meaning it's not technical debt that you have to, connect the two things together. It's now technical wealth because it's done for you.
That's
technical wealth.
I'll put on my Twitter profile as a Redwood developer. First evaluation tutorials, yeah.
Yes.
There you go.
There's the place to start.
We have some preliminary plans. We talked about this, Tom, like learn GraphQL the Redwood way, learn Prisma the Redwood way. So you'll learn those technologies in the lens of using it with Redwood, and we can kind of teach it with our sort of the same methodology we kind of use in the tutorial, just kind of a friendly, easy way to learn it, but learning a completely separate technology that's integrated well with Redwood.
Yeah, I'd love to get a series of those done. Anthony, any interest?
You guys are on Twitter so that I can follow you guys, I think, because it should
definitely. So yeah, Twitter's a great place to follow, and also we do a lot of updates in the Discord as well, and on the forums. So, well, let's bring this to a wrap. There was one question which is an important one, and I'll just address this really quickly. But opinions about state management. Redwood is not opinionated about state management right now. We have found context and hooks are working really well. And Rob, you're building an app that's has more complexity. Have you used anything other than context and hooks? I know you experimented a lot, but current status, did you find a state management tool that you liked?
I started using Recoil I think it was for Repeater, and it seemed to work pretty well. It's like a kind of a different mind shift for me, but it's working great so far.
I use Pool State in our Next.js client and our Redwood client. That one's pretty solid.
Okay. So you can, a lot of choices there, and there will continue to be a lot of choices. Chris, thank you. Way to go. It looks beautiful. I mean, so much work. It's really been fun to watch you take off. And thank everyone for joining us. It's been a blast to do this as a community. We will do the next meetup in 2021. Huh? Man, I'm ready.
Wow.
I'm ready for a new year. ready to close out on 2020.
Yeah, David Price put it on Twitter so that I don't forget.
Yes. And then
I'm putting them in the chat here. I'm putting everyone's in.
oh, did you get it? Did you get the in RedwoodJS
Yeah.
on Twitter?
Oh, I didn't put that. Yeah, that one.
So we will see everyone here in 2021, hopefully on the forums or the chat or in GitHub. Help us get to V1. So PRs are welcome, contributors are welcome. And there's a lot of great places to get started as a new contributor. Look for those resources as well. We love contributors of all kinds and of all experience. There's a lot of ways you can help out regardless of where you are in your career.
Sticker? Was a sticker slide? Did I miss it?
No, I missed. See, I did it. I missed the sticker slide.
I'll put it in.
Shame.
I did. So Rob, we need the stickers. Roger, I saw your, hey, Roger, find me the forums, shoot me a DM on the forums, and I'm going to take a screenshot to remind myself. Absolutely would love to talk. So yeah, DM on the forums or DM on Twitter, Roger, the David Price. Cause you know what? It turns out there's a lot of David Prices, and most of them, several of them are a lot more famous than I am.
You got to hyphenate your last name, man. Then there's nobody.
Oh, then there's nobody. What could I be? But you know, it is short and sweet. So I don't know if we could come up with something else. David, actually, if I could just add the rocket emoji to the end, that would be it. That would be me.
You have more rockets than SpaceX.
Next time I'll fix my camera so that you see me.
Samson, we look forward to seeing you in the community as well. So thanks for sharing your inspiration.
I'll put my camera on next time so that you can see my face.
Please, we would welcome that. That'd be great. All right, everyone. Well, okay, what is it, Rob? What are you
Lord
doing?
Lord of the Rings came out in 4K. I got mine today.
Wow.
Check this out.
Okay.
With this with the
What
one
is
ring inside it.
I
It's
guess
a little.
that's the new,
It's actually really. It's like a nice metal thing. I thought it was gonna be like cheapo plastic.
It comes
that's
with
the new
one ring.
release. That's the new release of
ridiculous.
Redwood. Let us see Redwood.
I think we
Yeah.
should start code naming all releases with things from Lord of the Rings.
We should have a boxed version of RedwoodJS that you can buy, and we send you a box and it has a little redwood cone in it.
That'd be sweet. I have one here. They're pretty big though. We'd have to. But yeah.
It'd be fun. Yeah, I like it. All right. Ending. I see the red button. I'm gonna click it.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Good to see you all.
Next time.
David, Rob, and
Samson, good
Christopher.
evening. Thank
Bye,
you.
Samson.
Okay.
Bye.
See you then.